I thought maybe tonight we would we can kind of do just whatever. Dansikakio. I was just working on updating some docs on Keanu. Thought maybe we'd some of the features of our upcoming mobile app tonight, but we can also do some language study. I was just gonna leave it open and see what people thought. Yeah. Get some stuff in place here. Yeah, this would probably be a good time to just getting ready for this to go into private beta. Actually, um, it's pretty exciting because we just launched some features on Keanu Transcribe and the database. If you haven't seen those, the couple of which is support for some other languages and dialects. So we recently added support for, I guess this would be Western. I keep asking this question and I don't always get the best, clearest answer. And I don't know if there is one, but there's several different dialects of Anishinaabemowin. And so I believe this is the Western dialect, but there's also another one I think that was referred to as the Southern dialect. I think they're close. Anyway, this is the Western dialect of Anishinaabemowin, spell checking support for that, for Keanu Transcribe, as well as Anishinaabemowin, the Odawa dialect, in two different, I guess these are like, I don't know if they're orthographies or just spelling styles, but anyway, those were available, so we added them. And we have support coming, hopefully soon, for Blackfoot and TH dialect, Woodscree. So that'll be coming soon. But the thing that makes that really cool is that when we're transcribing, thing I forgot to do here. I always like to share this out. Share my live on Facebook in case anybody wants to come hang out. The reason these are important or kind of cool is one of the features of the platform. For instance, we jump into this story from Wes here. Whenever we're transcribing these stories, you'll notice that some of we use different colors to sort of show the different words, I guess I'll say. And those have meaning. They're not just there for no reason. Basically, what that does is every time that we put a word into the system, and this particular transcription is set to Plains Cree Nehiu and Plains Cree Y dialect. So whenever we type something in, we actually use Ituewana behind the scenes. And we borrowed the spell checkers, just like a very little part of what their technology will do. But we basically spell check. We do an analysis on the word. And so when the analysis comes back, then what happens is we can put it in the database. So if we have a look at that, every time you see a word in here in blue, that means that the spell checkers or the analysis has come back and said, yeah, we know what that is. And then we can go in and put it in the database. So because we've been doing this for a while, for Nehiu and Plains Cree Y dialect, we've got almost 24,000 words in here, which is pretty cool. So you can go in and click on one of these, like itam. If you look that up, itam is like, that one says something, talks about something, or says something about something, right? But if you look at this, one of the challenging parts of learning Nehiuwin, or like lots of indigenous languages, is the different ways that you can say something, right? So this is just one word, itam, which is the third person form. That's you're talking about somebody, right? So if I say it for me, I'd say nittain or eetaman, kittain, eetaman, itam, which is sort of the dictionary form, right? There's like all these different ways you can say this, all of these different ways you could run into this. And so we take a little bit of a different take in that whenever you run into one of those in a transcription, um, and we can sort of identify it in like quote unquote spell check it, I'll say, then we put it in the database. You can find the database here. It's been launched already. And you can go in there and you can see these words and click on one, and we can see how many times. Sorry, this is incorrect. I need to fix that. But we can see all these different forms. Gaetami, gaetami, I don't know what that is. That might be a mistake. And we can click on them. Gietamwak, which we've apparently only run into once. But then down here in the very bottom, we can see that's used in context. Here we can go and listen to that, see where it was used, see how to pronounce it correctly. Gietamwak. So now we can listen to that. Right. So I call this process, this supports a learning style that I have, what I call rabbit holing. It's a very technical term. Question from Juku, what is the Witsi Suk link again? My website is kiano.net. Let me pull up this doc. I'll actually pull them both. I pull up this doc quickly, and then I can put them in text so you can grab a screenshot. And then the Facebook page, I'll find that as well. So this is my site here. Kiano. If you just search Google Kiano, which actually I think it'll come up. I did that today, or maybe I did a search Kiano. It's like, yeah, it comes right up at the top. Kiano.net. And then that Facebook group, I'll pull it up here. Witsi Suk, which is Senapan Thunder. There it is. And she has a YouTube page as well. This is a private group, so you have to search for it. Witsi Suk. But this is a good one because Senapan posts in there constantly with audio and everything else. It's really great. Yeah, and let me see. Witsi Suk YouTube. Same thing. If you search Witsi Suk YouTube, then it should come up there. Yeah. So we're actually just testing a feature right now. Maybe I'll show that off. I don't have it running. You're good. This is a sneak peek. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the transcribe features that are coming up here. We're just testing this out in our staging environment right now to make sure that we've got all of the little bits worked out. Let's see if it'll load. There we go. So this is my local development environment. But basically we're taking that and now the spell check feature one more level. So one of the things that can happen, and I hope you can see that okay. One of the things that can happen is, well, we'll start at the beginning. We'll just start with a word like this particular region here. So we've condensed some of the space a little bit. On the production version right now, to switch between the original text and the translation, there are two tabs up here. Actually, we can see those here. There's original text and then there's translation. So we've kind of bumped that up into the bar as buttons in order to free up this space. And now we're using this as a context bar. So the reason we want to do that is because a couple things. when you click on a word, now what we're going to do there is show the analysis. So this is actually what we get back from the spell checker. It's a little bit technical. You don't really need to worry about it, but where it can be important is like there are contexts. For instance, if I go back one box here. So wa ends up with a little bit of a blue underline, and the reason for that is sometimes a word can come back with multiple analyses, meaning like it can be a couple of different things. And actually a better example of that is like, I'll do, let me just pick a blank box here. So esa, right? If I said esa, it gets a blue underline, but we can see there's actually 3 analyses for these. And the problem is that 99% of, like actually pretty much 100% of the time when you say esa, you mean that word that means like apparently or something like that, right? But if you actually search that word, esa, like 99.9999% of the time you mean this, like as I understand it, reportedly, like apparently, evidently, like this is the way it's used in context. But the same word, esa, can mean a clam, right? So there may be contexts where that's appropriate. And the spell checker doesn't know the difference between them. So the whole point is that when there is an ambiguous analysis, I'll say, or when the spell checker comes back with multiple analyses for a form, then for a word, then we show them. So you can, if you're interested in doing so, which, might be more for like a research or something like that, then you can actually say, no, this is the particle esa. It's not actually a clam. And there's 2 here because if you're talking about the singular clam or the singular, like in the proximate, or the singular clam and the obviate, it's again the same word. It's like not totally obvious. So anyway, that's one feature that's coming up. And then the other thing that this new sort of region bar gives us is when it's available. So in the case of like the Nehiu and the spell checker that we're using has a relaxed search, I'll say, or relaxed matching. So in this case, I've spelt this word wrong on purpose just to demonstrate this, because I used a short E and it's actually a long E, which all E's are. And so then we'll use that bar for spelling suggestions as well. Another example of that might be ego te, right? If I just spell it out, then it'll come back and say, well, you meant those long E's, right? So that's another example might be right? This should come back with, and actually I need to look at this. There should be 2 actually, because it could be a long A or a short A, so I might need to look at that. But anyway, spelling suggestions is another thing, so we've kind of shuffling things around. And then the last thing about that that's going to be pretty cool and helpful is if the word turns blue because we have an analysis for it, or we've spell checked it effectively, then when you click on that, it's going to light up this little database button right here. And then when you click on that, that will take you to that word in the database, so then you can see the details. There won't be much in here because this is our staging environment, but basically it'll automatically select that word, and then you'll be able to see exactly where that's being used and whatnot, and then explore other forms of that word, right? And so it's sort of a different approach, like if we look at that same word in itoyo, right? Itoyo, right? This would be the way I would have studied that normally by working through The paradigms, I usually use, there's a sheet that Ben Godden put out. You can find on Cree Literacy Network. Cree Decoder Ring. And so this is the chart here. We use this pretty regularly. So I would typically keep this in my, I would keep this in my pocket and reference it often, right? So here's those paradigms for that, with WAO, that VAI, these ones here, and then work on those and memorize those and then memorize these ones. And so this is a little bit different approach where it's like, okay, when you change the sound of a word, or sorry, when you change the shape of the word, meaning basically when you add more syllables on the end, like as the word gets longer, lots of times words can sound different. It can change the, what I used to call stress, but I believe is called a pitch accent, like the way you say it, the way the word flows out of your mouth. It can change depending on who you're saying it for. So this whole system, or this whole aspect of the project, is to be able to go and discover from fluent speakers, how would I say this word correctly? How can I use this word correctly in context, right? And let's do it. And another feature in here is you can actually search for stuff. See if we can see if this works. It won't be in the staging. I don't have that much data in here. Let's do maybe Eogo. No. Egua. Probably can't search for anything. Oh, let's use the production one. Let's go back to production database. So like Eogo. We'll use that one. So I can just arbitrarily search in here for something, and again, go in and see where we've come across that form or that word. This should work for partial words as well. Like if I say, yeah. So I might be looking for, was looking for a conjunct form like this. So I'm actually going to expand that. Say dammi. So I'm telling it here that I'm using a wildcard in the beginning, that little asterisk. I want words that end with dammi. This is like an X-actor form in the VTI. So ewiwapatami, gatasitami, right? Ganstotami, gamiowatami, gagi otaskatami. I don't know what that means. But then again, just like go and look for these, listen to them, search for specific words, sort of, again, highly technical process I call rabbit holing. And then again, hey, tansi Brandon. And then again, another feature of this is that because we're building a platform and not like just a language app, we're building in support for other languages as well. So when you use that Ojibwe Anishinaabe, we've only begin building that out, but again, this now becomes a database for other languages as people begin using it, right? And that's completely opt-in. That's not turned on by default. People, if they want to share the stuff that they're working on, then basically when you go in there, you have the option to turn discoverability on for that. So you can still use the spell checker and shut this off and keep your transcriptions private, and nobody will be able to, everything's private by default. But if you turn this on, then when something gets spell checked, it will get contributed into the larger pool for learners to go in and to be able to discover. You do need to have an account to access that. There's a big disclaimer when you access it at first that says, hey, I agree, I will not scrape this data. I will not use this for AI. I will not use this for whatever, just sort of a little bit of a disclaimer there going in. But then over time, different people using, if we have the technical term for that is called a finite state transducer. It's a fancy word. It's just like a little computer program that looks at a word and kind of knows where it comes from. And the new feature that we're launching again, if I'll just zoom in on this right here, when we click on a word, this is what that transducer gives us back. It kind of doesn't make sense unless unless you know what it means, but basically the word we're looking at here is eetwea, like as we said or something like that. But the transducer can look at that and it knows that the lemma or the word is ituo. The dictionary word is ituo. It knows that that's related to that. And that's how we get everything into the database. So we know that this is ituo. We know it's in the conjunct mode. We know it's a verb. We know it's animate and transitive. And we know that this is who's saying it, that 1-2 plural form, right? So this is the part that allows us to link that into the database. So when we look at that ituo, then that's how we end up with this list over here of all of these forms, is because that, what I call that spell checker, just for simplicity, it's actually is able to link those different spoken forms back to the root word ituo. And so that lets us kind of build this up as a resource. And again, you can click on any of these and go, ki ituo, right? Maybe I want to know how to say that properly, then I can go back in and listen, see this used in context with all these different transcriptions. Yeah, so database is available right now if you want to go check that out. You can just kind of go in there and just start poking around and searching. There's not much for other languages right now, just because this is brand new. We just launched support for Anishinaabe in that Western Ojibwe, and then Anishinaabe in the Odawa dialect. We just put those out. They're just starting to get used a little bit. I was talking with somebody yesterday. They're like, yep, we'll start using that right away. But then they demanded more features from Elon. We'll get there. Yeah, so that's available now. You can just go into database and just start poking around and go finding stuff. There's some mistakes I got to get cleaned up, like in Iteo specifically, esse is being categorized incorrectly. This isn't the command form of this. It's actually the particle esse. So we got to go back and clean some of that up. But it's you could still go in there and poke around otherwise anyway. Yeah, and then I thought the other thing we would do, I was trying to think if there's any other features. Another feature was kind of asked for. You can sort of change the size of the issues panel. It's a little bit annoying sometimes, especially on smaller screens. And then I think that's the bulk. And I think we've got this, the issue with the red error that you run into every once in a while. I think we've got that figured out pretty good, and the credential resigning figured out. So when you open up a file, the actual waveform and the video or audio that you're accessing is encrypted and stored in our cloud system, and you need to, behind the scenes, we create credentials to access that as soon as you open it up. And they're only good for an hour. So even if somebody had their URL or something like that, they couldn't access it like that. It's locked down pretty good. But those credentials need to be refreshed regularly. So that's all this is. And it wasn't refreshing very well before, but I think we've got that sorted out now. It seems to be working good. If this stays working good for the next little bit, then the next step we'll do is we'll just have it auto refresh in the background. And we'll see how that goes. Let's talk about the mobile app. I am really excited about this. So this will be the first time. This is going into private beta right away. I want to kind of emphasize again that Giano is a platform. We're not building a language app, like we're not building a Cree app. This is a platform that will support any indigenous it's for language revitalization for any indigenous language. So the Giano mobile app, we're planning on launching this spring. We're going into private beta right away. And the whole idea behind this, so this is a sneak preview. Nobody's seen this except for a very small handful of people. But I'm very excited where we're at with this project, because it's going to really help me in my language journey. But the whole idea is behind this is that you can search for a phrase in the app. And so if you go in and you search for, I want to say, I want to walk my dog, right? So then it will search within the public pool of stuff and let you sort of see what's in there. Um, I wanted to say something about walking my dog. So walk my dog. Okay. So we search for that. We may or may not see something that's in there that's related to what we want, like let's go for a walk. It's kind of close, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. So what I can do as a learner, if I can't find what I'm looking for, is I can ask a question. And I'll go in here and I'll say, okay, I want to say, how do I say, I took my dog for a walk? This is sort of a process that happens on Facebook right now. But the key thing about this, I'll just submit this. We'll just skip these 2 bits. And I'm going to submit that as a question. So this sort of happens on Facebook, usually with something like hippopotamus or whatever. But people are always asking all the time, how do I say this? How do I say that? So what the app does is when you first sign up, when you first get into the app, you are prompted to pick what, right now this is kind of locked into Michif, but we'll have multiple languages in here. But we'll just pretend that I've picked Michif as my language, and I want Northern and I want some heritage. I've set Northern Michif as my default language. And so once I've done that, then that's the pool of sort of language stuff that I'll see. But when I ask a question, it's going to go into that pool, but it goes into that pool like privately, and mentors can see that question. So we'll just put my mentor hat on here for a second. So now as a mentor, I can see that this learner has submitted this question. How do I say I took my dog for a walk? This is who asked it, and they're interested in learning Northern Michif, right? So I can go in and have a look at this, and I might want to ask some clarifying questions so we can have a little discussion, like I can leave a comment on that and we can have a chat about, and again, this is all private, just between the mentor and the learner, maybe clarifying exactly what they're looking for. And then if I feel like there's nothing in the pool of stuff that sort of connects to what that learner's looking for, I can create a response in here. I took my dog for a walk. So how would you say that? I think I'm just going to write Cree because maybe you'd say that. I walked my dog, okay? And then the next thing that you are required to do as a mentor in the system is record the audio phrase for this. So, nitim. I don't know if that'll play back or not. Let's see. No, I can see it. It's not coming through like it's supposed to. That's fine. The audio was recorded though. And then here we can confirm, but this is going to take the private question. I took my dog for a walk, and it's going to publish it into the public pool of answers for that dialect. Okay. So I have the chance as a mentor to tweak what I might tweak this and say, okay, instead of I took my dog for a walk, I walked my dog, right? And then I could submit this as an answer. So if we flip back over to my learner hat, I can see that my question was answered now. I took my dog for a walk. That answer came back in. Obviously, I answered it myself. That answer came back in. It's now in the public pool of data for learners within that specific dialect, right? And so now all learners can go in and search and find that, right? And so that brings me to my next feature, which is the playlists. Now as a learner, let's say I've got 15 or 20 or 5. The way I learn language in my home, or this is what I try to do, is if I'm about to say something in English, then I think to myself, how do I say this in the language first? So I'm constantly trying to replace phrases in the language sorry, phrases in English with phrases in the language daily. So I'm making that sort of like converting more and more over to um, daily language, if that makes sense. So I may have 10 or a dozen phrases daily that I'm working on. And so this is a core feature of the system is we can add this to a playlist now. So I'll add this to my first playlist. And if I go back to my home page, I can see my playlist here now. I've got 5 items in here that I'm working on, right? I can't reorder these right now, but you'll be able to. And so this is a core feature. You can jump into the playlist and you can play through these. I wish I had that audio working. And it'll go through the whole playlist. If it's going too fast, I could push this button and add like a 1 or a 3 second pause in between each of the words, so that little timer will count down. Maybe I want to repeat the phrase after I've heard it or something like that. And then as I learn these phrases, I can listen to this daily, sort of like my my language playlist. Maybe for 15 or 20 minutes a day, I go through my playlist and I learn these things. There's a million directions we can go through with this. We can do like in a flashcard style, or there's a bunch of stuff we can do, but the whole idea being that I can have my playlist. I can have a whole bunch of items on my playlist I can listen through. When I'm done with this one, I can remove it. I can add more. And I've got this constantly revolving list of phrases that I'm working on. And as I'm looking for more stuff, then I can search for more advanced language, right? If I don't find what I'm looking for, then I can go back and continue to ask questions, and then I can have mentors contribute those answers back into the public pool. And the whole idea behind this entire process is that this language, I call it a language bundle. This language bundle creates the opportunity for, what if a mentor comes in and they say, a mentor could come in for Southern Michif, we'll say French Michif, and they could have a list of things to say. Oh, show me all of the questions or the responses in the system, the questions in the system that don't have a response for my dialect, right? And then a mentor could sit down and work through those. And we want to, one of the things that we're building in, we don't have this in the app quite yet, but we're super close, is when you join the app as a mentor, as a learner and a mentor, but if I select, if I have a community I want to represent as a mentor, let's say I'm from Good Fish or something, right? And I specify my community, then when I contribute answers to the Plains Cree dialect, but with the Good Fish community as my community, those responses will be flagged for that community, so that if a learner came in and they said, I just want to see responses from my community, or I prefer responses from my community, right? This does 2 things. It does 3 things really. 1, it allows learners to focus on regionally specific language. Number 2, it allows mentors to look and start to contribute responses or build out what I call a language bundle specifically for their community, start to build a language app for their community. And number 3, I'm hoping what this will do is build representation, right? Because there's a bunch of apps out there right now, but if you're going to go out and get a grant to build an app, right, you need to go apply for a bunch of money. Anywhere from 60-70% of that money, the funding is going to go to the software development. And then you end up with an app with a limited number of phrases and, maybe words and phrases or something in there. And then if you want to update that app, if you want to continue to update that, then you need to go back and find more funding somewhere, right? And the whole idea behind this app is that you can focus 100% on the audio and the phrases and build an app very quickly for your community very quickly. If you get some funding, you can take that funding and dedicate 100% of that to recording with your elders or whatever that looks like. And so my vision is if we run into a community or language or a dialect or something that doesn't have representation, like I'm in BC right now, and there's over 30 distinct languages here, right? So in order to build language apps for all of them would be challenging. So from the perspective of getting something up quickly, we can take something similar to that dialect or language, export it as a spreadsheet of questions, hand it off, and that community could pick the ones they wanted or can add new ones in, add the responses, record the audio, and we can upload it into the system and end up with a brand new language app. That's the idea. We're going into private testing with this private beta right away. So this will be, I think we're planning on the around the 9th. We have a short list of people who are going to be doing some testing for us, and then we hope to be going into public beta this spring. And again, if we do have a spell checker or something to do analysis for us on the when it's typed out, then that's something again that we can contribute back to the language database for that discoverability aspect. So anyway, that's a sneak preview of the mobile app, and I haven't come up with a good name for this yet. I'm not sure what to call it. I was just working on updating the documentation today and thinking about like, do I just call this like the app? I don't know if that makes sense, but I haven't come up with like a good name. Like, I don't know, what do you call it? Sage says, pretty cool. Hope it's successful. I think it'll be fine. Because it basically mimics a process that we see right now happening on Facebook, where somebody will jump into one of the language groups on Facebook and they'll ask, how do I say this? This is actually the exact, I'll pull up that slide for you. You stick around for just a second. I'll show you exactly the problem I'm trying to solve with this. I have my old presentation here. Just got to find the slide. Down right there. So somebody will jump on Facebook and they'll say, how do I say, XYZ in Cree or in the language or whatever, right? And the problem is that like, it's hard to see this slide. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Hard to see that, but like there's all these answers, right? And it's just like chaos. Basically just chaos. The problem is that lots of these answers are correct. Lots of these answers are incorrect. Some of these answers are just like problematic. And there's multiple dialects in here. And then some of them are like, they're correct in different contexts, if that makes sense. So then as the OP, if I posted this question, I'm like, what generally happens in these groups is just people just stop posting, right? They get to 20 or 30,000 members and they just die. On the flip side, if you're a language mentor, all of the language mentors I know that are, I think of like Wayne Jackson, Neil Redcrow, like anybody who has language who's mentoring right now, they're super, super busy. So the idea behind the project is to try and reduce the amount of work that our language mentors are doing by looking at the process we do right now on Facebook and just trying to capture some of that information in a place where when a learner comes in and they ask something, they can search within an existing pool. That's another problem. Like, have you ever tried to go search for anything on Facebook? It's just not, it doesn't work really well, right? Like you might find some stuff, but like search in a group and try and find something, especially if it's a few years old, it doesn't really work well. So I think the idea over time is that as the pool of answers builds up over time, there will probably be less and less new contributions as it becomes a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Populated, right? And then in that way, two things will sort of get served. It'll allow learners to come in quickly. Oh, that's another thing I haven't even talked about that I think will be really cool. Like the idea of curated playlists, that we can have public playlists or shareable playlists with people, so that I'm envisioning like a university professor teaching Cree or something being like, these are the 5 playlists you need to go study. Or like, right, here's the playlist of survival phrases. If you're just getting involved in a conversational group or a class or something, then you can share out these playlists of stuff. They can be curated from this pool. And instead of having these resources scattered all over the place, then they can kind of be concentrated in one spot. We'll see how it goes. I think once people get it, it should work pretty good. And I think the last key feature that's really important for all of this, that is free. These apps are going to be free, right? Probably a good time to mention that we were funded for development on this by the Métis Nation of Alberta. They bought into our vision. We met with their language team right around last Christmas, so about a year ago. And they funded us for a year's worth of development, so this is what we've come up with. Yeah, I'm curious why TikTok is glitching. Super weird. How's things look on Discord or Facebook? Drop a comment if you're tuned in on one of those platforms and let me know if you're having dropouts or any of that kind of stuff. Getting feedback on TikTok that it's having problems with the stream. Shouldn't be. Yeah, so that's where that's at. The public playlists or like shareable playlists, I think that'll be huge. Because you can kind of, especially with the audio, like a lot of the resources, if we want to become speakers, then we must be hearing the language, or I don't want to say must. I imagine there's ways to learn a language without hearing it, but I don't know what they are. So it's really like a fast track. It's like the cheat code, right? If you can hear the language, that's obviously going to give you a. But then if you, in my experience, if you focus your learning on the things that are relevant to what you're doing now, right? If this list of phrases that you're learning is relevant to your day-to-day, things you say to your kids every day, things you say in the home every day, things you say around work every day, maybe even conversational things, whatever that looks like, then that idea of being able to bake those phrases in. I do this constantly where I just realized a good feature might be, I can see having this open for myself, because I'll say something to one of my kids and then I'll be like, oh, I got to ask somebody that. So it'd be nice to be able to pop that open and be like, just having them, I don't know, can't think of a good example on the fly. My young one will ask, like, why is the sky blue or something like that? And I have an idea what I want to say, but then I don't know how to, I don't know the right words. So maybe you could drop that, into a conversation. The sky is blue because of something, right? Have a conversation and then that might get promoted as a phrase that's useful to the larger pool of stuff. But I could see myself like I would be on this learner tab. Instead of using my notes app in my phone to write stuff down, I would just be dropping them in here so that they could be reviewed by a mentor. And that just because you ask a question doesn't necessarily mean it has to be answered per se, but it might just need like a closed status. That's the other thing too, is as a mentor in the app, if there's a question in there and it, some questions get asked over and over and over again. Here's one. We had coffee together, right? So instead of constantly creating new new content, the mentor can search for existing stuff. So it'll automatically search for something that's close. So then do we see anything with that says coffee in here anywhere? Oh, my scroll in there on the simulator is not working. I'll just change that to like coffee, right? Give me a coffee. So I can say, well, this is close. And I can say, oh, this is sort of what, it's close. So I can link that. And then what was the other one? Together, right? Those might be the two main concepts in there. So maybe I'll say with. Let's pretend with, sit with me. So I can link this one, right? And then I can review those. So I've taken that original question and I've linked them to existing answers in the system. And then that way we're not just like re-answering and like creating a whole bunch of duplicate content. Made it so that the mentors can kind of curate this and curate it a little bit and like keep the content, keep the database or the language bundle like fairly consistent. As a mentor, once I've created theirs, we can say, you can see coffee in the first example and with in the second, right? Let me know if you have any questions. And then that'll go back to the learner. Go back. We had coffee together, answered just now. I can go in. There's one comment from my mentor, right? And then I can see the two answers that were submitted there. So just because something was asked, it doesn't mean that it necessarily needs a new answer in the system. If we can link it to an existing answer in the system, like that's sort of a key feature, just to keep that. Because if you follow any of the Facebook pages, it happens a lot where questions get asked over and over and over again. And that's not to say that people shouldn't ask those questions. They should. Learners do need to know how to say these things. But it would become exhausting for a mentor, right, to keep having to answer the same or try to find the answer in Facebook. Go back and try and find where that answer lives, right? If you've ever searched for anything at Facebook, you know it's not super great. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to show off a couple of the things that we're working on tonight. This last little bit, a lot of exciting stuff. By and large, we got a ton of features and things that we want to add to both platforms, or to both Transcribe and the mobile app. Again, we're focused on getting out the door right now as an app that we can test with a small group. Across the board, we're focused on getting additional languages in there. For the mobile app, we wouldn't require a spell checker at all. We could literally just add any language in now, and especially if there is some content out there right now that we could use to populate it a little bit, that would probably be a good start. But that's not to say that starting from scratch, I'll have to think about what that would look like, starting from scratch. Yeah, you bet. I think you would probably want to populate the database with at least some content to start, because you'd have an overwhelming amount of questions coming in from learners right off the beginning. And then the other thing we need to figure out a little bit around like moderation, stuff like that. Hip Hop 43,000 says, call me in. I am streaming on 5 platforms right now, so it would be difficult to, in theory, I could call you in on the TikTok live, but then I would just be talking to myself on the rest of the platforms. But shoot me a DM anyway, and we'll connect and chat if you want to chat about any of this. Or else feel free to drop a comment in there and we can discuss it. Yeah, so anyway, that's some quick updates. Like I said, the language database is available now. The mobile app will be available this spring. We are still looking for beta testers, or we have room for more if anybody's interested in joining in the beta testing. I think we're going to launch out the gate with Michif and then Plains Cree to start, or Cree with, like THNY. We still haven't figured out exactly what the process is going to look like for onboarding new languages. From our end, it's fairly simple, but we also want to leave moderation in the hands of the community. So if you come in and you're like, we are from, this is Mi'kmaq or something, Lakota or something, right? We're not going to moderate the content in there. It's going to be up to the mentors within that community to moderate their own sort of language pool. So we still have some of that stuff to figure out, because it's like we know we need moderation, obviously, but how do we just get the appropriate tools in place to make sure that how do we what did the tools look like that will help allow us to build that as a platform, and then give communities the control that they need. Hey, I just got your DM there, Hip Hop. Feel free to shoot me a message on TikTok here. Again, I'm not able to call you in because I'm streaming on 5 different platforms right now. So, yeah, feel free to just shoot me a message on TikTok here if you want. All right. I'm going to leave that for now. And then I thought we'd do a short stream tonight, but we'll leave it open if anybody wants to do some... I know you want in my live. I don't know what you want to talk about, so you'll have to shoot me a message and let me know. And we'll see if we can figure that out. If there's any suggestions for something folks want to work on tonight, we could do some reading, we could do some grammar study. We'll go for another maybe 45 minutes. And then we'll call that good tonight. Just leave all the chats open. Hip Hop says, you got me going on Cree language. That's good. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Get folks excited. Reminder, your language is still here. One suggestion from the Discord, let's read some sacred stories. I'd be down for that. Keep it nice and easy. By the way, if you're just tuning in, you could find my site. You can Google it, Keanu, or it's at keanu.net. Can you call people on TikTok? How do you even do that? I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll figure that out, Hip Hop. If you jump over to keanu.net, that's my site. You can see some of the progress on some of these projects, and the documentation around some of that stuff. A bit of what we're working on here, and we'll jump over to Bloomfield. Oh yeah, that reminds me. We've got to get that third book online here. That's going to happen in the new year too. So. There's a third book that was unpublished from Bloomfield. And if you go to Bloomfield Online, you can see these are the Plains Cree texts. Technically, the Sacred Stories came out first. That was in 1930. 1934. And the thing I didn't realize, there's so much interesting history behind this that I didn't actually know. When Bloomfield collected these texts in 1925, he collected them, the bulk of them, mainly at in Sweetgrass, Saskatchewan. And these are the various informants: Louis Musamin, Adam Sageweo, Tsitigwayu, Coming Day, so on and so forth, Simon Mimiguas, right? These stories were collected. He originally collected 1,800 pages of texts. And when he went to publish them, the first one was, his contract was with the National Museum of Canada or something like that. National Resource, something. Anyway, but they were kind of going into the Depression, and they really had to negotiate to get the first book out. And so they cut his 1,800 pages down, and he only got to publish like 600 whatever, like the first book basically. And they were even going to have him cut the language out and just publish the English. And him and his boss really fought, and they got it. So we ended up with Sacred Stories. But I didn't realize this until Arden did that presentation. The second book in 1934, Plains Cree Texts, that was published by a different organization out of New York, I think. And again, he had to like find somebody to publish the second book. But he ended up with 3. So then there was a third book he got ready to publish, but then he got sick. So anyway, 100 years later, and I'll mention that too, if 100 years later, so that was 1925, and so in 2025, this summer and this fall, we got a grant to do work with Wes Finday, who is from Sweetgrass. And he's the great-grandson of one of the people who was one of Bloomfield's informants, Finday. And so these recordings you can find on this YouTube channel. We've started this project called Sweetgrass Stories, a 21st Century Perspective. We have almost over 24 hours, I think, of Wes telling us stories. Some of the stories that he's telling us are about... There's a story I just uploaded about Tsitsikwayuu. There's a story on there about Coming Day. And then there's stories that are related to some of these. I'm still working through these, but there's quite a few. You can find them. I think I have most of the stories from our first session on there. So you can find some of those now. There's that story from Tsitsikwayuu. And if you join us on our Sunday night live stream, we transcribe these stories using this tooling we've been talking about. So we just recently started on, we're doing Coming Day Flies Out of a Car with another group. We've just finished How Sweetgrass Became Chief. And then we've also finished The Flying Sweat Lodge. And the latest one we're working on is Atimwan Peyak, the very first recording I did with him. So yeah, join us Sundays for those. 6 o'clock Pacific, we do a live stream. All right, just wanted to give you some background in case you're just tuning in. In case you're just tuning in, let's find a story here to read. How about... Wisagaitzak preaches to the wolves. How about we do that one? How long is the story? I'm just going to read the story in the language, but I'll leave the English over here. Now keep in mind that this is the 1925 interpretation, so you got to kind of upgrade it in your mind a little bit. But I'll just stick to this side over here, and you can follow along. Aha. Okay, I mitsagetan. Wisagaitzak, miste kitmagsu. Namauiakigwe atayunis wigitsik. Hayatsik. Kitatoe tagosinwak, wemstagosuak. Papa etawitsik. This can be papa or papam. Like going about would be the interpretation of that. Papa, papam. Let me reduce some of my extra windows here, and we'll get the... Actually, I want that one open. We'll get the dictionary going here, too. So I hear this as papa more often than not, but you'll find it in the dictionary like this. Papam. Imagine... Oh, yeah, so they're both there. That's cool. E papa tau e tik Ahtaja. Mahikana kwa mustus wayana. Ego wasagitsak na magigoyayaw atawagan. Ko tagakay sinuak mistihi ayawak. Atawewak ego nik mistihi ayuinsa. Ego wasagitsak na magigoy. Ego omsiteo wimstaguswa. Namatsi ngagi masanaikan. Na magigoy atawagan nitayan. Maga, kia pamitsit ngayan, ka tepay higiyan. Exom sito, wimstrosua ite wisake hitakawa, na magigway gagi tepahigagan. 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 It's a tricky one. Ki spin mi in kia pa nga ayan. Ha. Wimstaguswak. Higwain kituitin wisagitsak. Wapuaya naniso, mina mitas niso, skutagay mina niso, paskisigan. Ego tamiste ayunis, utnam. Hegsegwa giwe wisagitsak. Wigimaga na mieo kahkyo. Omsitik uikamagana. Mutsugisenu. Tanta giot naman. Oh, this is a tricky word again. Tepahigagin. Tepahigagil. Let's go look that up because to pay for it, I guess. Tepahigagil. What did you use to pay for this, I guess? Where can you get anything with which to pay? Exito. No tagesu. Peguao. Ninantowap mawimstagosu. Exegua sipuiteo. Epitagate. Wimstagosu wamsito. Wisagetsak. Kipe tepaigan. Namoya toyo wisagitsak. Mien pistipuin. Tansikitutin. It's interesting. What are you gonna do, I guess? What are you doing? Mahikanak ganipahawak. Egwa miik maskiki pistipuin egwa kiwe wisagitsak. Pitagate wikuak. No tagesu, mien mi. Miik pimi. Ego tapistipu na stau pimik. Ego apsa sin o yaganis. Siganam ego tapami. Mitsit ego tau si tau. Apsa sige. Pimi sa. Kwatena. Interesting. Ego kakiut nam. Ego sipuiteo in tonuat mahikana. Kwatena. That's what they call there's a word for that. It's a uncommon like that. There's a word for it. They call it the H preterite. Don't totally know what it means, but anyway, keep going. Kita tawe wap meo mahikana piyak. Si mastam uhi mahikana. Namoya toyo mahikan. Kiwi nipa hino sam. Moin sim. We masanai gaitin. Masanai gaitin. Tansi we sa masanai ge hiyin. Masanai ge hiyin. Tiskwa. So this is like, interesting, employ. Interesting. Ewiatos kaitan, kepapan tumatik, Mahikanak mina mahkesi sakka kyo ka miostik. Mahkesi sak. The good-looking ones, I guess, eh? Utangaipin spatnak. Iwigage skim tagok. Emia sika timwen kawitamatagok. Ego tapue wa mahikan sipuiteo. En tomat mahikana. Mina mahkesi sa tapue pitote wak. Pitoteo chisqua. Every once in a while I run into a word I just gotta like. Is that a spelling error or can you actually say that? Pitoteo. Oh yeah. Pitoteo. Nope, that's not it. I think it would be petoteowak, but that's fine. Mitzeit mahikanak, mittanimisue wasagama piua. Ewi netota gotap skuts ayami hiwinu. Wisagetak. He was like a priest, I guess. Omseteo, sim tik. Ayami hawin ga tohta mek, ta ituna mek. Egsegwan moyang awiak, ka nipahiguawak. Ayami haeko. If you, okay, take on religion, I guess. Mage ga tapwe tamego, ka nipahiguawak. Io he wapatamok. Oh hey. It's like, where's that part? Look upon these ones here. Mahikanak mahkisi sake wapata keko he pimia. How oma awiak awiak oma mitse kawi saskamohak. Kinwes kapamatsu, which I shall place between. Huh. Interesting. We'll live for a long time. Egse toyo wisage tsak. Egwa kakyo niya toyo wak mahikanak. Emiwe takik kinwes kapamattsik. Egwa oma egwa mieo mi. Mi tua wa mahikan. Egse sipuiteo. Papeyak saskamohat. Wasaga mina mahkesi sakakyo mestenamo pimi. Umapimi. Egskin ways kapmatsinawaw nsimtik. Umaga utinamek ayami hawin. Tapskuts ayami hewi no sage miat mahikanak ayami hawin. Kitatoe apit megwatswisage tsaka kyo. Quasque paya huyua mahikana paxiniet pistipoit. Kakyo nippiet. Killed them. They all died. This word. Matsagage patsak uge. Gaut ta tepahigakiwa. There's that H again. I surely did need something to pay my debts with. I'm gonna have to go look that up again because it's always used in a context that I'm like, what does that actually mean? Iteo esauhe mahika wisage tag. Egwa wianeheo. Egwa giwe tahat. Egwa makesi samina kakyo mahika na. Ayami hawin ka kiskano hamawat kakyo nipaheo. Egse kakyo tipahamo masana hige o masana higewan na. Waye samat mahika na. Egse egoyakuk. That one word. Wianaheo. Just wanted to look that up for a second. Yeah. Oh, yeah, to skin them. Okay, so I thought maybe it was something else, but yeah. Interesting. And you know what I wanted to do? We don't have to do that now, though. Let's do one more, hey? Go back and do one more secret story. I had that one person just Wanted to talk about treaty. We'll have to chat about that after, I guess. Let's do another story. We still have some time. Wisagitsak stabs a buffalo with both of his arms. Let's try that one. I think there are some Wisagitsak stories here as well. This one, I think this first one is like the rolling head story. That's a Chichipstaguan. That's a long one. I don't know if we could finish that. Well, maybe we should. See how far we can get. We've got half an hour. Just going to send a request to my upstairs for some water. Just see if one of my kids will take pity on me. There we go. Just Ubered some water from upstairs. All right, this story too, I don't have it online yet, but I have this story from Wes on video. He's like, bet you never heard that one before. I'm like, nope. So we'll have that. That was from our second visit or third visit? Second visit. So I'll be getting to that one soon. I'm just about done uploading all of the first visit stories, so I'll be getting to our second visit right away. Yeah, with both arms. But we'll do this one. I think this one will actually be good. There'll be a ton of good words in here. But again, I'm just going to read. I'll do my best to read through on this side. Hopefully don't make too many mistakes. And if you want to follow along, we'll just leave the English up on the other side. So, how? The birth of Wisagitsak and the origin of mankind is this one. Gaya skihtatoi. Egwa nitatayo kan kihtatoi yakipiak na peo. Peago gamigisu. Lived alone, I guess you might say. Wia ego niso toa simsa. Kihtatoi mana sipuite che uikmagana. While we see you, na mo ikiske tam tanige oche, while we see it, o wiki magana. Ke tato e kunta se pue te ka so e matit. E guaga so mate geto tak e te mat. Pute gua kawap mat mistegua. E pagamahwayet. E papagamwahayet. Some real tongue twisters sometimes, eh? Egwa gape waioyet genepikwa. Kawap mata wiki magana. O witsimusiet. Se makmestehe kisuasu. Mistegwa e pagamahwayet wiwa. Nina pe megwa nitagohtan etwiwa. Kisuasu mistehe. Ohtetam. Aiesko sam wats. No wats. Sage himawa. Genepegwa. Eogoneohe. Gawi. Atayo ka timak. Wisage tsako gawia. Mina otawia. Egwa wanape o mistehe kisuasu. Namagin pao. If I ever pause, it's because I run into a word that trips my brain up a little bit and I got to think about it if I understand what it means. Ohte tam, to be jealous. Interesting. Omse teo iwa, wayo nui isma chin, iteo, we, I always do that. Instead of iteo, I say iteo. But that's a VTA. Tapoe metni wayo isima tiu. Pego tipsquil. Danike gau kategonian. Kategonio. Tisqua. Every once in a while I just want to stop and look up a word, so just bear with me. Kategonu. Stay overnight. Interesting. Danike gau kategonian. Itik uikimagana. Waiongi sima tiniteo maga kia. Kegana tein wiasa iteo wiwa. Eha itoeo awasquo. Mayo sipuite it wiwa. Oskota gaiu utnam. E postskak. Ito teo o he kinepegwa. Itaga asuwasoyit. Ka asuwasoyit mistegok. Asuaso. There's like so many good words, but to be inside. Live inside. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Nina pem ne tago tane teo kinepegwa. She said to the snake. Tapwe pe wayo wiua. Mokomano te. Giske. It's a big word. Giske gwe sawa teo. Giske gwe sawa teo. Wow, what a word. Cut through its neck. Interesting. Giweta heo he kinepegwa. Mitsama poyosi tao. Egwa ka teo toa simsa. Hid them. Tige mama is a ski kitagok. Na tokese. Gisega skitau ka kutau. Ka ko tau eneo. Otoa simsa skik. Egwa wasquil. Miste kakio ki gwe. Kaskitau. Apo kakio ki gwe esa. E big squatak. Hegse se. Enasquil wasimgut. Egwa kakio ki gwe min na peo pizza ikuta. Ka itagoniik. Kita hamu weo e kagi gwe. Kita wi tamago it. Tago teo egwa wiwa. Asameo kinepegwa. Kagi mitsamapo. Mitsamapo gagit. That's interesting. I was going to say mitsamapo git. But there's a piece in there. I wonder if that piece implies that the snake was used to make the soup with. It must be, hey? That's super interesting. So if we say mitsimapokeo to make soup, but can I say kageo to make soup out of something? That's super interesting. Super, super interesting. Okay. And I've run into other words recently that have that ageo. So just bits and pieces, eh? Picking up the pieces as we go. Hwa, kiwayo mai tueo osquio. Mr. Hig, gawik sick. Ginapim ginapik umiko. Egotoago tiga usit naman. Oh, no, it's osit tamatan. I made it for you. Kisua wasquio. Namatita pue apo exi tutaman iteo isa. Ito teo ite mana kinepe kwagan to wap mata wasquio. I wonder if you'd say awisquio. I know when I listen to Wes, he won't say ana isquio, he says anisquio. I wonder if it would be suitable in this context to say awisquio. Egwa pagama hoyo mistegwa. Mwats kinepukwa. Pe wayuiwa. Mis tahegisua sukunta e pe mawika tat. E pe pito geto nape ma. Giske kwe ta hok. Exise opis skau awana peo tapasit. When she entered the dwelling, oh, I see. He cut off her head. That skik. Let's go check out Ben's site for a second here. Starts with skik. Chop something off. It's just such a very specific word. Skikati some to cut the legs off of something. Giske gate swell. Cut off a nose. Yeah, anyway, just a very, very specific morpheme, very specific word, piece of meaning. That's cool. Itapasit. Nito watts o tagisegok. Naganto o taskin. Ga takosuin. Itoyo eatese o pescat. Interesting. Heguawas ko kitato tu kapi magan. Uma pisik mistaguanis. Hegua kitato gapig squito mastaguan. Nitoyagan. Tanu kag. So squats kakio quitsameo. O tapatsigana. Kakio mittenega kitutam. Egua kakwetsi ta puta asinia ka witama gota skik. Ikut kutawinait. O napema. Neoki gwegimi yo. Toa simso napeo. Speak se puede, big word, tisqua. Se puede tesahuat. Si pi kitos kita o sita yete egua skutio. Egua sniwatsi. Egua sagao. O kamen, another big word, tisqua. Kamenag kasiwe. O kamenag kasiwe sagao. Forest of thorn trees, very specific word. Egua te pueo waustagua nesoa. Nitowa simsistic. Nitowa simist. Tisqua. Nitowa simistic. Behik. Kigit dima hina. Wow. Kigit. I don't know this word. You were making me. Just with another tongue twister. Kigitema hina. Wow. Kigitema hina. Wow. Ka nagasiye kitoyo. Taki te pueo was kweo egua wa nape sis. Itamas kamik. Kasit tapasit. Wayo ti wapa tamu ma pisik mistaguan. Pig sque maganiek. Egua. Oh no. Nayumin gut oste sa. Oh, carried. Interesting. Nayume gut. Can you say nayumeo? Just ran into that word. Nayatzigan. Something that you carry like a bundle, I guess. Interesting. O me se teo. Stay se na magigwe. Kigawi no. Ostaguan pago ga big sque magak. Tuyo. O taneo. O tawia gagi mi quit iskoteo. Ne hiwa gao sita tik. Wepeneo na waise. O ta iskoteo. Ta wi au tuyo. Ta pue miste. Nagan go awa. Wayo tiskoteo yi. Tiskwa big word. Kwahko teek. Ese kwahko teek. Aes pissikos taguan pimohte maganiu. Ego pago nehio ga siga sutisa matsais aissa. Egi witigut. Pissikos taguan gao. Tiskwa, big word. Pissikos taguan gao tihte pipaiek. Holy, there's a tongue twister. Tihte pipaiek. Pisk miaska miskutio. Egua nawaswateo sa saimino toa simsa. Ka kio saskiteiwa. Waistagaya was his hair. Yeah. Egua mina kitato aeta pitana. Ka nayumi awasis. Moek gawi non stay se kiam sok tapsi tan teo. Tapasitan, I guess you'd say. Tapasitan. Saimina ki toamut namuhtauja kagi migot. O, tiskwa. O kamen kasiu. O kamen kasiu watsi. Getosi hat. Na wai is iwipaneo. Tapwe. Atsina waus the guan. Ka, there's that word again. Tita pepayit. Ka tita pepayit. Say that 20 times fast. Ego ato teo misa kinepekwa. Kitaga kis kamayit. O kamenakas. O kamenakasiya. Whew. That's that thorn tree. Get the tawinamagut to make a opening, I guess. So squats get the pimotate. Tapwe kaski ho. So squats a pimotate. Ego saimina wayo itamu chick. Saimina pete sap meos taguane pete the papayit. Oh, rolling. That's what that means. I think. Just go. Teeth the pipayu. Teeth the pipayu to come rolling. Can you grab me a water too, please? Thanks. A teeth the papayit. A teeth the papayit. A teeth the papayit. Awawa siska Naomi that was being carried. Asai mina gagi mi guto tauya sniuchi. Getosi tata sai mina nawai sweepenum. Mr. Mrs. Payu. O sini asniuchi. Namagagi gaske ho awa ostagwanesta pasito tit. Quayas kato teo amesqua. Tapiguam jesqua. Tapiguamayet oheasini. Asinia. Another one. Big word. A piwa piscuige. Piwa piscuige. Weepetiua teeth? Iron. Oh, I see. Piwa piscuige. Weepetiua. Eguagaski ho sa saimina. Saimina was nawaswa te otawasimis. Otawasimsa. Sorry. A lot of big words in here. I'm just fighting through them. So, yeah. Saimina pete sap meo wa siska nayom gut ostisa. Hewa mina sipi kita o hositat. Gagi mi guto tauya utinigan pistis weepenam. Ateto awa hawasis. Matawa kegwa. Ego stahkik. Ta nipa hego tsiko mamistaguan. Ka tita pepayik. Ka tita pepayik. O gawiwa ostaguaniu. Ego ay mato tsik. Hegaya matok. Kegapit. Oh, big word, jiskwa. Piko itinawaw. Kegapiko itinawaw. Ite guak misi kinipikwa. Ego asua ho. Holy. Jiskwa. Asua ho higuak. Carried them. Asua ho higuak. Ego agamik. Egi tago ta higo tsik. Gawe asua ham. Awa kagi asua hohat. That's a hard word. Ohe oasasa. Iwapama tego teo mistaguan ga tita pai it seto. Asua ho nia mina teo. Egaya maga papa sei taetik. Tapwe asua ho hik posu. O ospisk jiskwa. Ospiskwanik on his back. Neat. Lots of words I don't know here. Mwete tawa ik nipik. Ihaya tik. Misikine pik wesa. Kipesa scan. Itoeo wasquo. Egwa pagastawe hok. Nameo. ga esi ga son. Itikawa ustaquanawa ga tita pipayit. That roll Ostaguan ga tita pipayit, that rolling head. And the male, that's the sturgeon. Egwaugi na pisa sak papama tsihuak mistehe. Quata, just go big word. Quatagita tik. Eogo otawasis siui tai. Wisage tsak. Interesting. It's another one of those kind of rare ways to say things. Yeah, no, all good. We're just about done anyway. We were just trying to kill the rest of the hour, but we're only like halfway through this story. Might have to pause on this one till next Wednesday or something. We'll go for another 10 minutes here. See how far we get. Thanks for dropping in. Eogoawa otawa sisiui tai. Wisage Itzak. That boy was Wisage Itzak when he was a kid. Interesting. That form, they call that the HT preterite. I don't really know what that means. And again, it's not super common. I know some areas in some areas they still use that a lot, but I don't quite understand it. Egspigegwa sepuite wak. Osim sai wite wat. Pagahatawan sa ositamo weo ta metawaget. Kay tataway tige sipik e papmote tsekeogo o stay mas. Astam kaetagut. Kisenwa o tosik e posiet. E pusit. Hegsise. Ese quasihik. Egwawa kapsisit. Awa nagatik. Iatis matot. Stay say. Nito wats nia. Ka chisqua. Mahi kanuwin. Gonna be a wolf? Oh yeah. Itueo anape ses osim semas. Hegseo gopago. Giot now isage ta ego te wigi ek e tago tai gut o he kese inua. Jisqua quatapenek o tosik. Moya po giwet ta hek tago teo igo akawa geseno niso tansa. Nitwa simstik. Ni pe suao. Kete so na pe miek. Ito eo esa. To wap me kito. Wai will. E o mesimao it. Into wap maat miste e tagawa e maya tisiet. Moe tagi na pe mia na wasis. Iteo, I would say that. Ke awake mia su. Maskuta po samiste he mato teo esa. Ego eto teo o simsamao wa. O sknik squilk tat ke giweta heo. Giweta heo. Ane he wassa. Egi gaski kwe nat. Gasi kwe nat, not gaski kwe nat. Get a lot of letters in there. Gasi kwe nat. Pame heo tapwe o nape mu eogo. Egwa pagwa teo wa o misimao. Wa wats mana o tito. Eto takawa awasis emi sit. O tanas kanik. No translation it says. Egi neo tips kayak magom siteo. Mate. Matotsani ke gausitan niyo ito. Tapwe matotsani ke wan. Eusita tuyo. Ego miste mia su. E ats. Ahtsi sut. Agawa teo ego wakagi pagwa tat. Ata ge tutatse. Mwatsa po no te gitutik. Ego wa gesei ni wit. Si kemeko tanasau he. O mesimawa. Ese kakwe nipahat. Oh. Trying to find a good place to stop here. Not a cliffhanger. Ego tapwe, aha. You see that Q there? That actually needs to be an apostrophe. It's supposed to be a glottal. Gakakwe nipahao itoeo awakisia nu. Tante ego te. Tante itage. There's no W, so I get confused about that word sometimes. Tante itage ngagi utnin. Mistigo sa emiwasage itoeo au skinny ego. Ego nga ito tahao. Nina ha kasim. Itoeo wa kasia nu. Ego tapwe ito taheo. E minstagoiek. Se itoeo wa kasia nu. Napawa ganeo ko wa kitas samtin. Itoeo. Mayo o tate se skisi tai. Don't understand that word. Awo skinny gugape muskiska gut. Wa gayusa. Ituak. Ka wapiskistik. A ton of really, really challenging words there. Lots of tongue twisters. Okay, one more. 57, then we'll wrap up. Kanipahauti o mai tetaman teowa. Namagagi nipahin itoeo. Aesk nista. Kipuaga nimtin iteo. Itweo. Interesting. Kopuaga nimtin. Kopuaga nimitin itweo. Tapwe nipaheo. Ole, the plot thickens. Wow, skinny gu. O stakwani o namweo. O tinamweo. I didn't know you could say that. What an interesting word. Nope. Wonder if it's supposed to be. It might be that relational form. Because I think I've heard nitotinamwan. Like there's a wan ending that's again uncommon. Kiweta tao asiskoyo o he kise inua. Wa skitsen pi katipimo teo igi weta wa kise inua ka wapa ta kwaya ko sostagwan eagoteek. O te squate mik. Mago e kise inu. Mawika teo o pawagana. E nipahimit. Holy. Well, I could tell I'm getting tired because I'm really struggling with some of the words. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up there. We'll just leave it for a couple minutes if there's any comments or questions. At the end of that, just wanted to make sure we got a Wednesday night stream in. I know it's New Year's and everybody's busy to go. Raring to go off and relax for the new year. But just want to say thanks for dropping in. I hope everybody had a really good break over the solstice season. And thanks for dropping in tonight for the stream. We'll just leave it open for another minute for any last questions or comments. You can find all of these stories on my site. I'll bring up the link again if you're interested in finding those. Right there, keanu.net. You can find my site there. And just go down to the Bloomfield stories there if you want to check them out for yourself. And with that, Saimi nakakio kitamskat now wow. Ay ikinanaskum tagok. Mina ay gapi giugoik. Grateful for the visits this evening. Kistawao miu tipskansik. Have a good evening, and we'll see you on Sunday for our transcribe stream.